Let me take you back to your childhood, millennials. Imagine this. You're in front of your TV, you put in your favorite childhood movie on DVD, and instead of watching the movie, you go to the special features menu and discover the amazing world of interactive games. Back in the day when DVDs were just a new thing, the back of the DVD boxes made a big deal on how menus were interactive and animated. But in later years, they got more creative.
To make sure there's no interference. It's like an airplane going over your head.
Hello.
Oh, that's great.
I recognise it.
Stop. No, it's getting too small.
Wait, blow it up.
When you select an option or do nothing at all, you'd see these amazing animations go by or even move from one place to another in an eye-popping fun way. It's amazing how back in the 2000s, DVD distributors were very creative at how to make DVD menus not only fun and interactive, but appealing to the audience as well. Back then it was just a bland generic menu, and then they had fun with it, and nowadays they're back to being a bland and generic menu again. Not all the time, but most times it was just an image from the movie with the music soundtrack in the background, and sometimes it's just the exact same image of what's on the box art of the DVD case. And other times they have absolutely nothing but icons for the special features menus, and other times they have whatever this is. Seriously, what is this? Probably the reason why many of us remember these is because we love to experience the DVDs brought to us, and as young kids, whenever they had any new games, we got hooked. Possibly because some of us didn't really grow up with a whole lot of video game consoles. Heck, smartphones weren't even a thing yet, so this was our only option. Many of the kids' movies on DVD had these interactive activities, and most of them were fun games. A huge majority of these were on Disney and DreamWorks DVDs, sometimes on other family movies, but it really depends. So I'm sure many of us know that DVD companies in the 2000s were trying to gear themselves more towards kids with games and activities. I'm assuming they made these just to occupy kids for a little while so that their parents would go off and do something else, or that their kids wouldn't bug them, I'm assuming. And from my childhood, I remember there was this one DVD. I vaguely remember it, but I, for the life of me, cannot remember. It was unlike any other DVD, and it wasn't even like a movie DVD. I just can't remember it for the life of me. I just really wish I knew what it was. Maybe I just need to go over some of the different DVDs that I own and see if maybe I can possibly find it. Well, I've shown my DVD collection many times before, and I've even talked about DVD cases that I happen to despise. So maybe it would be a good time for me to go over a majority of different DVD sets that I happen to own that include interactive games and activities. But I'm going to provide some rules. In order for them to be interactive, they need to be games where you can hover the DVD cursor over the screen multiple times, or the activity requires you to push the arrow and enter keys on the remote at the right moments. They can't just be a video where you watch them and do absolutely nothing at all. Plus, I'm not counting any of the Seen It DVD board games or even any Easter eggs. Those DVD extras that you find hiding throughout the menus, or even little icons that pop up while you're watching the movie just to show random trivia facts. I'm also not counting any video game demos like on a DVD-ROM that you would plug into your PC, or even if you play it on the original Xbox. But it was pretty cool back in the day of how you could play a small demo of the original Star Wars Battlefront on your Star Wars DVD. Now, trivia and quiz games are an exception, but there may be a couple exceptions as we go, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now, on the side note, most of the interactive DVDs weren't really meant for a normal DVD player. They were more meant for laptop computers that you could play on the DVDs, and that's why you could use the mouse cursor to find these things. Like if you tried to find an Easter egg on the screen, you literally just easily wave the mouse around all over the place until you found it. But on a normal DVD remote, you'd have to painstakingly use the arrow buttons to move from one place to another. But again, most of these games were made for the DVD remote because most games require you to push the button at the right time. And most of the time, certain computer DVD players didn't have this ability at all. So anyway, let's move on. Also, with each game, even if it's on the same DVD disc or not, I'll be ranking each game or activity on a scale of 1 to 5. First, let's take a look at Shrek. I've had a lot of memories with the Shrek DVD games. When DreamWorks Animation was competing with Disney over their movies, especially their home video releases, they tried appealing towards kids and made a specific section where kids could easily find the games titled DreamWorks Kids, or shortened to DWK. Of course, not all the DreamWorks related DVDs had these, and I'm pretty sure they don't do these anymore. As you can see, the menu is filled with different games. Quite the variety, right? First, let's look at Rescue the Princess. It's a simple game. Basically, you just choose the correct path and move further into the game by choosing the right door, window, or staircase, and then you get a cutscene from the movie. But if you choose the wrong one, you get another brief movie cutscene that shows that you did a bad job. Also, at the beginning of the game, you have the option to choose which princess you want to rescue, which is pointless because the game forces you to choose Fiona. It's fine, I suppose, probably fine for kids, but it's just too short, really. Next is Shrektacular Trivia. It's pretty self-explanatory, it's just a trivia game, but always remember one thing with these quiz games: you have to watch the movie before playing them. Lots of the questions require you to remember specific scenes and lines from the movie in order to win the game. Next is the Character Morph. This one is pretty fun. This is a game that will definitely keep you occupied for a good while. You just simply choose and mix or match the heads, torso, and legs of these 4 different Shrek characters. It's pretty funny. This is probably where most meme material would be born. This one's called Mirror Mirror on the Wall. All you do is ask the magic mirror a yes or no question. Press enter and just listen to what he says. Surprisingly, he has a small handful of different answers.
Okay, let's think of some questions. Am I adopted?
Without a doubt.
Okay. Will there be a Shrek 6?
It is decidedly so.
Will I find any socks that go missing from my dryer?
That would be none of your beeswax.
Will I ever be able to find that interactive DVD that I can't remember?
Try again tomorrow.
Other than that, it's alright.
The last one is called Dress Up the Gingerbread Man. Now, this game would be fine for a toddler maybe, but you don't even get to dress up the Gingerbread Man. You just choose a costume and see a 2D image of him decorated in the costume, and he just sings a short, annoying song.
Oh, where has my little dog gone? Oh, where can he be?
Also, doesn't the tuxedo costume kind of remind you of Pee Wee Herman? I should also mention that when you see the Gingerbread Man as a star, you can clearly see the outline of his mouth where the designers didn't want to put any more effort into this game. So that was the first Shrek movie. Next is Shrek 2. Now, I know when I said I wasn't counting any games where you literally do nothing, just watch a video, but this one is sort of an exception. Only because you do some interactive choosing at the very end of watching the short movie. Far Far Away Idol is just a short, amusing take-on of American Idol, and after you watch it, you get to choose who you think should win. If you select Shrek and Fiona, Puss in Boots, or Donkey, they get their own cutscene. But if you choose any of the other rejects, Simon Cowell just claims himself as the winner, which is pretty funny.
Nope. It's me, everyone.
For what is a man?
Next up is the interactive map of Far Far Away. All it is, you just select a location where you watch a short cutscene for the movie. That's it. Maybe kids might find it amusing for a bit, but you might as well just watch the movie if you want to watch these cutscenes. Next is Find Puss in Boots. All that happens is Puss flies around the screen and you just have to choose a spot where you think he might be. If you don't get the right spot, you just get a bubble of the face of a character from the movie, which pops and says try again. But when you do find him, well, you win. The last game on this DVD is Save Fiona. It's just another quiz game, not a whole lot else to say. Shrek the Third only has one somewhat interactive game. It's literally the exact same game as the Magic Mirror game from the first movie. I guess I didn't want to put too much effort into this DVD since a lot of people didn't like Shrek the Third.
Come on, stretch out that chi energy, you soul seeker. The stars are saying yes. I mean, no. Well, maybe. Could be. Don't know.
Moving on, something more memorable for me, let's look at Shark Tales games. First up is Disguise Lenny. All you do is just dress up Lenny in the correct costume with the correct prop and body paint that would fit in the background. A bit of a shame it's not like a dress-up game where you can just mix and match the stuff. Next is Fish Eat Fish. This one's alright. Basically, you choose which animal of sea life might eat the smaller organism. After you choose, you read a small educational fact about the animal. Once you make it to the end, you get to see a slideshow, and that's it. Not bad, I guess. Now, if you wanted to have your kid bet on horse racing, but legally, you can show them place your bets. With this game, you just bet on which seahorse might win the race. It's always random, and Lucky Day almost always ends up in last place. Very rarely is there a cutscene where he actually wins. Next up is Madagascar. I have a lot of memories from playing these games. The first game is a short demo of the B Equal Trivia game, which I'm assuming was a thing back then, which was also sold separately. I unfortunately don't have this game with me at the moment, as I seem to have misplaced it, but I do remember it was an alright DVD game. Again, this was back in the day where DVD games used to be a huge thing back before Xbox 360 and Wii hit the scene. But overall, the game is a 4-player competitive quiz game with animal-related trivia, which is pretty educational for animal enthusiasts. I can definitely give props to the people who worked on the DVD, where it has so many extras aside from just the movie. Next is the Fusa Whack. You simply highlight the coconut over the Fusa's heads whenever they pop up, and try to get as many as you can. Sometimes it takes forever for the DVD to register it as a hit, because when another Fusa pops up out of nowhere, you try to move the arrow over as quick as you can, but it won't register it right away. Other than that, it's fine. Next is matching lemurs. It's stupid simple. You just match the specific lemur to the character's thought bubble, and that's all. Up next is Marty's Birthday Wish. This one's pretty lame. You simply look inside Alex's mouth and just select a tooth. It doesn't give you any hints or anything, you just select a tooth and expect to win. Then after that is Madagascar Symphony. What you need to do is just listen to which musical instrument goes in the specific order, then you select the instruments in that order, and you win. It's sort of like Simon, but not fun at all. Now, for the DVD's main event, Crack the Code, the DVD menus are filled with hidden penguin footprints throughout the whole thing. You click on them, and they give you a secret number and letter. Once you find all 4, you type in the code and get a secret minigame where you play as kinda creepy looking 3D penguins. Use the arrow keys to move them around from one place to another, and it's pretty amusing to see them move around and such. The goal is to get to the end while avoiding the spotlights, otherwise you'll have to start all over. But I can really give credit to the makers of the DVD for some creative thoughts on the secret codes throughout the DVD menus. That's something that not a lot of DVDs put effort into. Up next we got Over the Hedge. The first game we have is Backyard Obstacle Course. The player guides ham you throughout the backyard while avoiding traps and lasers. If you get caught, you have to try again, but make sure that you keep Hammy moving and just make sure he doesn't do anything for a good 10 seconds, otherwise you'll have to start all over again. Then towards the end you have to select the correct wire to pull and you win. The last game on the DVD is the Acorn Toss, and I hate this one only because I cannot understand how it works. I guess you just hit the enter button at the right time, the power meter goes, moves, or something like that. I'm not really sure. And you just get whatever point the game feels like giving you. It's not fun at all. After that is Kung Fu Panda's Dragon Warrior Training Academy. What you do is choose a series of doors, and you'll either have to hit the enter button at the right moment that something comes up, select an icon to progress, or use the arrow key to hit or grab objects, or even choose the correct path to take. The games aren't really too fun, but at least they have some variety. Now, if you remember the DreamWorks movie Monsters vs. Aliens, when the DVD first came out, you get a bonus DVD containing a short called Bob's Big Break, where the whole gimmick was with the 3D glasses. The only real game included with this is Paddleball. The game lets you listen to an audio cue and select the appropriate character it goes with.
Now, the whole 3D gimmick is kind of fun, probably because the paddleball actually looks like it's hitting you in the face, but other than that, it's okay. Oh. Now that is what I call 3D.
Let's take a break from the animation and move on to some other games from the other childhood movies. Some fond memories I remember having a lot were on different Thomas the Tank Engine DVDs, where you get to play all sorts of different interactive games and activities. The one I remember the most was the games from Calling All Engines. Surprisingly, Tom and Jerry also had a couple games of their own on the Tom and Jerry The Magic Ring DVD. I remember liking the movie as a kid, but the games are a huge disappointment. The first game, Jerry's Magic Recipes, first has you choose a location to explore for Jerry's Magic Potion. Why Jerry wouldn't want to make, let alone know how to make a magic potion is anyone's guess. You can either go to the kitchen or the pet shop, and all you do is simply just select any of the items that are on the list on the left corner, and just select whoever's hiding in the background. It's stupid easy because once you highlight something, it's pretty easy to guess what that is, and even after you find the item, the highlighted item is still there for some reason. But if you goof up 2 times, you lose. The other game, Sorcerer's Surprise, is just as bad. It's similar to a game of Where's Waldo by finding the image of Jerry who doesn't have a ring. If you don't select the right one, you get a silly cartoon sound effect. Once you find him, you just get a short cutscene. That's it. Pretty disappointing. So you remember the movie Matilda? It was quite a fun family movie with a surprisingly huge variety of games. The first game, A Truly Terrible Test, has 3 levels of difficulty and asks you different educational questions. Not much else to say. Next up is classroom games. You can either choose the Spelling Bee or Math Magic. Yeah, do you really think that any kid really gave a crap about these games? I know I didn't. These were always an automatic skip for me because why would you want to learn about spelling or math on a DVD game? That junk is meant for school. The Get Rid of Miss Trunchbull trivia game is pretty self-explanatory, but again, you need to watch the movie in order to pay attention to some scenes of the movie. Make Magic with Matilda is just a memory card game. And at last, the one I remember the most is Terrify the Trunchbull. This one is where you select an object and watch an edited movie cutscene, and that's about it. Not a whole lot else to say. Now, I should also mention there was a strange board game released on the Planet of the Apes Blu-ray called the Forbidden Zone Adventure Game. I unfortunately have no ability to capture the footage from a Blu-ray player, but I did take a couple of screenshots. As you can see, while the movie is playing, you play this odd board game, which I assume doubles as a trivia game. And I didn't get too far to find out, but I find it really awkward and distracting how you have to watch the movie playing while you're playing the game that blocks 60% of the screen. Let's head back to animation franchises and play some games from the Ice Age movie. First up we have Hide and Eek. Basically, you use the arrows to select a spot where you think Scrat hid his acorn. If you select the wrong one, you watch Scrat fail, and you have to try again until you eventually find it. Pretty bland. Next up is Frozen Pairs. All you have to do is just match up which character looks similar to the one, and the others are obviously shaped differently, so choose wisely. Other than that, it's okay. Playing Darwin has you match up the character's body parts correctly, and then you read some historical fact about the animal. It's kind of disappointing it's not like a mix and match game like the Shrek character morph. Now let's move on to Ice Age The Meltdown. First up we have the Ice Age Factoid Meltdown.
Welcome to the Ice Age Factoid Meltdown. Hopefully you were paying close attention to the movie.
Oh, f***. Okay, I watched the movie. Now I'm ready for the quiz. How many times is Sid's name mentioned? Are you kidding me right now? What kind of a question is that? You expect me to count how many times someone else says somebody else's name throughout the entire movie? No! I'm not paying attention to that. I'm more focusing on, like, what happened in this scene or what color this character's fur is or something like that. You can't expect me to, like, do math and count how many times somebody says somebody else's name. That's stupid! Okay, so I've watched the movie all over again, and now I know the answer. So anyway, let's move on to the next question. How many hairs get burned on Sid's head when he said... You have got to be kidding me right now. The entire majority of these questions in this quiz require you to either memorize or write down how many times a specific character does something specific in one of the scenes in this movie. Why would you do that? That's not fun or challenging at all. That's like too much work. I'm not planning on watching the entire movie and taking notes on what happens each time. You really think that I'd suffer through the entire movie just to get the right answer and how many times Scrat loses his acorn or how many ass hairs grow on Sid's ass or something like that? I'd have more fun watching Wile E. Coyote get knocked down, counting that how many times. This is beyond a doubt the absolute worst quiz that I've ever played so far. And that gets an immediate 0 out of 5.
Anyway, now that I ranted about that, let's address the other games. Sid's Soccer Challenge is way more fun. You just select a random spot to kick the soccer ball into the goal. If you win, you get a point. If the dodo bird catches it, they get a point. It's pretty simple and a bit challenging, only because it's always up to random chance. Who's Your Buddy has you go through a series of odd questions, and then it just calculates who your buddy from the movie might be.
Please give me Scrat, please give me Scrat, please give me Scrat. Sid sucks. He's like the Aquaman of this franchise.
At last is the Video Game Memory Challenge. It's just another card memory game. This was a basic way to tie into the video game that was coming out at the time, because once you match up two of the cards, you get to watch a small bit of gameplay.
Right.
Now, let's look at some games from the movie Robots. First is Robot Dance. Unfortunately, there was nothing special with this one. You just select a dance for the robot to do, and that's it. I suppose it's amusing for a little bit if you were a kid, but it's not too special. On the other hand, Fender Photo Shoot is actually alright. It's a basic memory test where you have to look at an image for a few seconds, and then asks you a series of questions. It's definitely tricky and challenging for sure. Inventabot is a game that's playable. Basically, your task is to build a robot that makes domino patterns. Your goal is to find the different pieces to build the robot and test to see if it works. You have to pick out some gears and even search for springs, tires, and batteries, but be sure to inspect every item you look at because some of them might be hazardous. Then your next task is to build it by seeing which way gear will turn, choosing which section will fill up with oil first, and seeing which wire is connected to the battery, similar to the Over the Hedge game. If you do a good job, you get to select a domino pattern and watch them fall, but if you fail to build your robot, you're left with disappointment. Next is a couple games from the open season. The Voice-O-Rama is nothing too great. Basically, you select a character from the movie on the left side, watch the scene they're in, then you select a different voice on the right side to match up to replace their original voice.
Behold, the mighty grizzly! I look like a bear, I talk like a bear, but I can't fish, I can't climb a tree, I can't even go in the woods.
You can either choose from a teenage girl, an English man, a child actor, a Mexican voice, a Japanese voice, or a French voice. Other than that, that's all there is to it. The last game on this disc is the Wheel of Fortune 4th Edition. It's basically a two-player competitive quiz game where you shout out the right answer to a specific category question, and then you select who got the right answer. I played this one the most as a kid just to see what plays. Now let's look at some games from the movie Surf's Up. With the Make Your Own Surfboard game, it's just as it says, you just build your own surfboard. Whale hopping with Chick and Joe was like Frogger, but not as fun. The last one, Lava Surf game, I could not get past and I didn't even have the time for it. All you do is go through a cave and try to dodge obstacles by using the left or right arrow keys on the remote. Just pay attention to the leaf glows in order to indicate which way to go. Even when you realize that, good luck getting past the entire game. Now, if you like the movie Elf, that's fine. I think it's okay, but it's pretty annoying watching the film as an adult because Will Ferrell is just there to be loud and obnoxious. Now, of course, as a kid, I had fond memories with Disc 2 of the Elf DVD. Buddy's Adventure has you go through a series of 4 games. Each time you beat a game, you get a number code to punch into the elevator, and we'll get to that in a second. The first game is the race down Mount Icing. You just use the arrow keys at the right moment to dodge obstacles. The next game, Elf in the City, is literally an absolute maze. Probably the worst of the 4. Expect to be in this game for a while, but you can see where you are by hitting the enter button to view a map showing where exactly you are at, but it doesn't really help much. After that, you play a snowball fight game and then play a quiz game to help Santa put together his sleigh. After that, you get to punch in the 4-digit number into the elevator. All the games are fine for kids to amuse themselves for a good while if you were to play these at like a Christmas party at home maybe. All in all, I have to give them a 3 out of 5. Once you're in the elevator, you're welcome to a variety of different things. You might get a fireplace, a Christmas tree, a couple of minigames, or maybe you'll even get trolled with a short clip from the movie. So yeah, that's about it. I'll give the elevator a 3 out of 5 too. On Disc 2 of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Flint's food fight game is not what you think. Basically, you're in the flying car dodging food projectiles, using the arrow keys, and shooting at gummy bears at the right moment by pressing enter. One good thing I can say about the game is that every time you restart, it's always a different pattern, so it's not like a memory game like you'd expect. Then once you're inside the giant floating meatball, you have to defeat Flint's machine by selecting the right arrow keys at the right time. And that's about it. Not too bad, I guess. Now, for anyone who grew up watching VeggieTales, might have had a lot of fond memories from the show, and if so, you might even remember playing some of the DVD games. Here's one from Lord of the Beans. It's just a simple adventure game where you use the arrows to choose a direction, but if you choose wrong, you get chased away, and sometimes you have to start all over depending on which path you chose. Other than that, it's fine. Next is Tummy Ache Dreams from The Ballad of Little Joe. What you do is select 3 different foods for 3 different courses and watch what dream you may have had, and Little Joe interprets that dream. It's alright, I guess, but sometimes the voiceovers echo a bit for some reason.
All the Russians will cheer and declare you the winner, but you'll say no.
Next up is the Oompa Loompa dance on the DVD of Tim Burton's version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Remember the game Just Dance? Well, it's nothing like this, and that didn't exist, so this is all you had. With this game, you need to use the arrow keys at the right time to progress through the game. Otherwise, the clumsy Oompa Loompa will fall flat on his ass. Now, is this supposed to be fun? I'd rather just learn how to dance by watching the Oompa Loompa, not using the remote. And what am I supposed to be doing, dancing and using the remote at the exact same time? Yeah, sure, that's challenging and fun enough. Not only that, when you get past the second part, the game literally speeds up and you have no time to react fast enough. I feel bad for anyone who grew up playing this game. Anyway, let's move on to another quiz game that I've had lots of fond memories of. From the Land of the Lost Season 2 DVD released by Rhino, the Land of the Lost quiz featuring Wesley Ure has you go through some trivia questions. Again, with this quiz, you'd have to watch all the episodes in order to know some of these, but then again there are a couple questions that are almost unrelated. I remember playing this quiz a lot for some reason, not sure why. Maybe because I tried to test my knowledge, not even watching the episodes, and just seeing what reactions Wesley gives.
And 4, Tu B'Shvat. Tu
B'Shvat.
What is that again?
Tu B'Shvat.
Tu B'Shvat.
Tu B'Shvat.
Now don't let that influence your voting at all, the fact that I don't know how to say it, okay? Just forget. Tu B'Shvat. Tu
B'Shvat.
Tu B'Shvat. Okay, here we go.
I actually did get to meet him in person along with Kathy Coleman, and they're very sweet and kind people. Let's go back to another DreamWorks movie and play a game from Flushed Away. A Maze of Pipes is another game where you just use the arrow keys at the right moment to get past a maze of pipes. The third stage has you finding what engine piece goes with which, but if you lose or even choose the wrong path at the beginning of the game, you lose. Another DVD I've had some good memories with was from the movie Daddy Daycare. Name the Noisemaker has you listen to audio cues and match up what noise goes with which character from the movie. The Kid Card Matchup has you match up what object appropriately goes with the character from the movie. And Odd One Out is pretty self-explanatory. Of course, if you choose something wrong, you get to watch Eddie Murphy make a goofy face, or watch Morticia Addams looking angry. All the games are just fine, and meant really for just little kids. Ironic, right? Next on Stuart Little's DVD is Stuart's Central Park Adventure Game. It's just another quiz game where you need to watch the movie prior to playing. The same goes for the other 2 movies of Stuart Little 2 and 3. I give them all a 3 out of 5. But on Stuart Little 3's other game, Monty's Monstrous Appetite, it's just a basic memory game where the pipes indicate which food Monty wants. I played this game the most considering I barely even watched the third movie that nobody even knows exists, yet surprisingly had almost the entire cast come back from the first 2 movies. Scooby-Doo's first live-action adaptation also has its own quiz game, which is somewhat easy, but also it's a 2-player competitive game. With Scooby-Doo 2's game, you get to explore different places and look for clues. Not a whole lot else I can say, but if you want to be a detective like the Mystery Incorporated gang, this is the DVD game for you. Now surprisingly, at the timeless classic Who Framed Roger Rabbit has a game called Trouble in Toontown, and it's downright bad. Basically, the first thing you do is throw pies at silhouettes of the weasels through the windows, because that makes sense, right? When you throw a pie at the window someone's near, they get hit by the pie that's outside. Anyway, in order to hit them, you have to wait until the weasels is directly in the middle of the window, and you have to hit the enter button at the precise moment they show up. If you're just 1 pixel off, it doesn't count, and you have to go and answer a question. If you answer wrong, you get a flat tire. Guess 3 more wrong, and you lose. After you get through the pie game, you have to choose a door, so I go through the left door, watch a small cutscene, and then I'm in front of this monstrosity. I have no idea how I'm supposed to get past this guy. Supposedly, I'm supposed to repeat the blinking patterns of its eyes and use the arrow keys to do so, but even when I do think what I'm doing right, it says I'm doing it wrong. I don't even understand what I'm supposed to be doing. In fact, I failed more times than I can count on this guy, so I gave up and said screw it and restarted the game, and this time I went through the right side door. Thankfully, you get to play a better game that's similar to the Fusawak, but surprisingly easier. Then after that, you just dodge any of the dip the weasel sprays at you, and you win.
Yeah, not a fan. Maybe it would be a better idea to just play the movie adaptation on the NES.
Up next is the Disney movie Valiant, where it only has one game and a series of different games. The first stage is where you have to match the patterns, then you have to fly a plane and parachute crates to its locations, and the final stage is a really intense game where you have to use the arrow keys to guide Valiant to fly through the level. It's really fast paced, but thankfully not as bad and as dumb as the Oompa Loompa game. Next up, we have a couple games from Brother Bear 1 and 2. The first movie has this bone puzzle where it gives you animal bones to put together. Once you complete it, you get some short clips of animals and some educational facts about them. It's not too bad. After that is the Find Your Totem quiz. It just goes through a series of questions to ask you, and it determines what your spirit animal is.
Please give me an eagle, please give me an eagle, please give me an eagle! Ah! Damn it.
Brother Bear 2 has a quiz game. Once again, most of the questions require you to watch the movie first, and the rest of them are actually questions from real animals. I remember playing this game a lot, and I can really give credit to Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas for actually coming back to do voice work on just a simple game. Monsters Incorporated has a game where you go through different doors to find pieces to Boo's door. There's not much else to say, and I don't know who that's supposed to be, but that is not Boo. That looks more like a Dora the Explorer knockoff. With The Lion King and Lion King 1.5, they both have virtual safaris. It's alright, and yes, there is some interactivity having you choose where to go. I give them all 3 out of 5. The Haunted Mansion also had its own virtual tour exploring different parts of the mansion and even going through the mausoleum. I like it for how creepy and eerie it is. It's not bad. But the virtual tours that I remember the most were from the Harry Potter DVD's second discs. From the first film, it lets you explore little parts of Diagon Alley. It's alright. But with the tour to Hogwarts, it's not too great. Probably because it was their very first attempt at it, and the perspective is very blurry. With the Chamber of Secrets, this was my very first Harry Potter movie, and it has a good variety of different games. With this film, the Diagon Alley tour looks a lot better and actually has you explore and look around. You can use the up arrow on the screen whenever it pops up to move forward, and you can even look left and right. You can also use the down arrow whenever it shows up. It highlights with sparkles and shows very brief cutscenes. I can definitely give credit to all the actors in the shots who stuck around for staying in character while the camera was just going around for this. Next up is the Forbidden Forest Challenge. I didn't like this game back then growing up, and I still kinda don't. It's a bit challenging and sort of like a memory test. As a kid, most of the time I never made it out because everything always looked the same. If you take a wrong turn 3 different times, the game's over and you'll have to try it all over again. It wasn't until playing this after so many years that I just discovered that if you focus closely on one of the giant spiders that appears on one of the paths, you have to take the opposite path in order to move forward. But that doesn't help a lot because while things go by, it's nothing but a fast blurry path. Other than that, it's fine. But the one that I remember the most is the Chamber Challenge. You basically go through a series of questions after watching the movie, of course, and as you progress through answering questions, you get to open the Chamber of Secrets and then get a tour of the chamber. I always loved watching this as a kid just because of how eerie and creepy it was. I've always wanted to explore this place, and I still do. The Prisoner of Azkaban has its own share of games too. It has its own virtual tour of the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom, and it also has a tour where you can walk through Honeydukes. Not much else to say. Catch Scabbers was a game that always irritated me. You have to use the arrow keys to avoid objects in your way and try to catch Scabbers, but I never got past them as a kid. It's not like in Dragon Slayer where it gives you a flashing glow showing you where you need to go. The Quest of Sir Cadogan was one I have the most memories with. It's not only a challenging game, but a bit of a frustrating one as well. You have to time your actions to determine which path to take at the right time. If you choose the wrong path, it could decrease on what you may rank as at the end of the game. At the very beginning, you have 3 doors. Once you go through one, you get to go through a challenge, and all the doors are different. The first door has you going through gears, and if you hit up at the right time, you can get past them. The second door has you memorize symbols, and you have to select them in the right order to avoid getting bitten by snakes. The third door is just a memory sequence like Simon, but with potions. After you go through one of the doors, you get past a drawbridge, which I've always hated going through. Then afterwards, you end up playing a Quidditch match and throwing a bludger into the hoops. There's no timing or anything like that with it, you just hit enter at any point and it counts. After that, you go through a twister where you have to press enter whenever you see the painting that you belong in, and you see how well you rank in the game, and that's it.
Well, that's it. I'm aware there's plenty more games that are on other kids' DVDs, but I just wanted to explore the realm and amazement and possible creativity of all these different DVD games that were built into it. But you also have to expect that lots of these games are at the lowest of quality. I mean, after all, they were made for kids. But it stinks. I still can't remember which interactive game or DVD that it was that I had many years ago. If only I could just... What?